I thought I could handle it. I told Ethan to go. Sidorin said I was fine, but when I heard the sounds coming from her room low, rhythmic, unmistakable, I couldn't stay in bed. I got up, walked down the hall, and opened the door. There they were, Ethan and Aunt Sarah, together. Neither stopped. They just looked at me and kept going. Before we dive in, please take a quick second to like this video and hit subscribe. It's a simple way to support the channel, and it helps more than you know. I appreciate you being here. Now let's get into it. I was gripping the edge of the mattress, struggling to stay still as Ethan moved behind me with focused rhythm. My hands clenched the sheets, heat building fast. Each breath came louder than the last, ragged, impossible to hold back. His grip on my sides tightened, keeping me steady as I tipped further out of control. A sound escaped, sharp, sudden, too loud to ignore. I barely recognized it. Then he shifted me onto my back, holding my wrist gently above my head as he kept moving. The bed rocked beneath us in our Seattle suburban home. I tried to breathe through it, to stay present. But everything dissolved around me. My fingers reached for something to hold on to, the wall behind us tapping in rhythm. I pressed my lips together, but another sound broke free, raw and unfiltered. When he finally dropped beside me, I lay still. Heart pounding, skin damp, chest rising hard and fast. He let out a quiet laugh, brushing his lips against my shoulder. You know, Aunt Sarah definitely heard that. My stomach sank. I sat up quickly, the blanket twisted around my legs. Eyes locked on the dark hallway outside our door. I had completely forgotten she was here. I was the one who told her to stay with us in our cozy Seattle home after her divorce, that she shouldn't be alone. I knew she'd been struggling. She hadn't been with anyone since it ended, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know how to begin again. And now she'd heard all of that, the sounds, the movement, the way I let everything go. It wasn't just awkward, it felt cruel. I stayed there, frozen, pulse still racing for all the wrong reasons. How was I supposed to face her in the morning? The next morning, I stayed in bed longer than I should have, scrolling aimlessly on my phone, trying to pretend everything felt normal. It didn't. My voice from last night kept playing in my head, louder than it should have been, and I couldn't stop wondering what Aunt Sarah had heard. Eventually, I made my way to the modern kitchen with its sleek granite countertops. She was already at the table, sipping her coffee, calm as ever. Her phone was in one hand, a spoon in the other, like nothing was different. "Morning," I said. "Morning," she replied. I opened the fridge and grabbed the orange juice, avoiding eye contact, pretending I was hungrier than I was. Then she said it. "You two had a lot of fun last night, huh?" I paused, bottle in hand. "Yeah, we were a bit loud, I guess," I said, keeping my voice light. She smiled slightly. "Honey, I think even the neighbours heard." I shut the fridge, blinking hard. "He must be pretty talented," she added. "You sounded like you were having the time of your life." I didn't respond. "You're lucky," she continued, taking another sip of coffee before glancing up at me. "It's been a long time since I've had that kind of night." She paused, then added, "If he ever gets bored, feel free to send him my way for a night." I laughed, thinking I was supposed to, but she didn't. She just looked at me, and suddenly it didn't feel like a joke. The day moved on like nothing had happened, but the weight of Aunt Sarah's words never left me. Every time I passed her door in the hardwood-floored hallway, I wondered if she remembered saying it or if she meant it at all. That night, we were in bed again. Just talking, no touching, no teasing. Just the soft hum of the room around us, and the heat of Ethan's arm resting against mine under the blanket. He glanced over. So, how was this morning? I hesitated. Weird. She brought it up, said we sounded like we were having fun. He smirked. We were. I ignored that. Then she said you must be really good. And, if you ever get bored, I should send you her way for a night. He blinked. Surprised. Wait. What? That's what she said. I nodded. He let out a quiet laugh. Well, she's not wrong. I turned to face him. You think she's attractive? I mean, yeah, he admitted. She's beautiful, just older. I stared at the ceiling. She hasn't been with anyone since the divorce. I think she's lonelier than she lets on. He didn't say anything. I exhaled slowly. Would you ever do it? He turned his head. You're serious? I don't know. I keep thinking about it. She said it so casually, then just stared at me like she meant it. He looked at me a little longer. You'd actually be okay with that? I hesitated, not completely, but I'm not against it either. The room went quiet again. Then he sat up. I looked at him. What are you doing? He glanced toward the door. You said you're not against it. I hesitated. Right now. He nodded once. You read my mind. I didn't answer. He kissed me softly. Just once. Then stood, pulling the blanket off his legs. She's probably still awake, he said, turning to the door. Wait, I said, you're actually going? He looked back. Only if you let me. I didn't say a word, and then he walked out. The door clicked shut. And I was alone. The room still held traces of him warm air. A faint scent I couldn't name. Something that made the quiet feel heavier. I lay there, blanket pulled to my chest, every inch of me too aware, too awake. I shifted once, trying to calm myself, but the stillness only made everything worse. I told him it was okay. I told him to go, but now that he was gone, the silence felt unbearable. Then I heard it a soft creak, a quiet shuffle, and then a breath drawn out, unsteady, and definitely not his. There was a pause, then another sound, Sarah's voice, barely audible at first, then longer, higher. I held my breath. Something was happening. I stayed frozen, hoping it would fade. It didn't. Instead, a slow rhythm took shape, quiet shifts, light thuds against the frame, a murmur here and there. No words, just intimate, focused sounds. My hand drifted down, more instinct than decision, pressing firmly over the warmth already gathering beneath the fabric. The response was immediate, an ache, sharp and familiar, blooming fast. I let my eyes fall shut, trying to stay with it, trying to breathe through it. She cried out again, sharper, unfiltered. My fingers moved with growing urgency, tracing over the same spot again and again, but it wasn't enough. My legs shifted beneath the blanket, my body moving in slow, restless waves. I couldn't seem to stop. I imagined them on the other side of the wall, her pulled against him, his hands moving lower, her voice rising with every pass, the creak of the bed, the catch in her breath, the way she let go so easily while I was still here, chasing something I'd already given away. Each movement dragged me further into the tension. But the release never came. It circled closer, then slipped just out of reach. I pressed harder, chasing that edge, hoping I could catch it before it vanished again. But the tension only built. Everything inside me wound tighter with every breath. Then she cried out again loud. Broken. Completely lost in it. That was it. I pulled the blanket off, breath catching as I sat up. Skin flushed, pulse pounding behind my ribs. My hand dropped away in frustration. I couldn't do this alone. Not with those sounds, not knowing what was happening. I slid my legs over the side of the bed and stared at the open doorway for one long second. I stayed still, trying to decide if I was actually going to move, but the answer was already in my body. I stood up and walked towards Sarah's room. I opened the door and stepped inside without a word. Sarah had leaned forward near the edge of the bed, her hair falling forward as Ethan moved behind her, one hand resting at her hip, the other following the curve of her back in time with their rhythm. The room pulsed with sound, staggered breaths, subtle impacts, the quiet friction of skin. They both glanced toward me but didn't stop. Sarah turned her head, eyes locking with mine between shallow gasps. "You coming?" she asked, breathless and amused. I pulled my shirt over my head as I crossed the room, the rest of my clothes slipping away piece by piece, leaving a trail behind me. By the time I reached them, I was already flushed and alert. I stepped in behind Ethan, letting my hand run down the length of his back, then around his waist, my palm settling just above the base of her spine. "Just keep going," I whispered. He didn't respond, but I felt the way his movement changed, more deliberate, more focused. Sarah's breath stuttered, her arms trembling slightly as she shifted closer to the mattress, her voice catching in the back of her throat. I pressed a kiss to Ethan's shoulder, then another down the slope of Sarah's back. My hands skimmed up her sides, fingers tracing gentle lines as I leaned in, keeping my body close to both of them. All three of us moved as one, the rhythm sinking beneath my skin. "That's it," I whispered against her ear. "Stay right there," she whimpered. I smiled, then leaned in again. "Let's ease her back." He slowed, pulling away just enough to give her room. We guided her onto her back together, her body shifting easily beneath our touch. Her legs adjusted without hesitation, her chest rising with each breath. Ethan leaned into her again, steady and smooth, and her breath caught mid-air. I slid in beside her, brushing the damp strands from her face. I kissed the side of her neck, my hand drifting along her collarbone and across her center. Her body responded instantly, moving with him, her hands gripping the sheets. "You're still with us," I murmured, brushing her cheek. "Good," she said, turning toward me, lips parted, eyes low and glassy. I kissed the edge of her jaw while Ethan picked up pace beside me. One of my hands stayed at her waist, steadying her, while the rest of her moved freely between us. He eased away gently. We shifted her again, guiding her onto her side. I moved in behind her, my arms slipping beneath her waist, wrapping her close. Ethan adjusted, lifting one of her legs carefully before resuming his motion, sinking again with hers. She gasped the second their bodies reconnected. I kept one arm around her middle, my other hand supporting her thigh. her back pressed into me, her breath growing shorter with every movement. Her voice rose in broken pieces, scattered and urgent. "She's trembling," Ethan said, watching her carefully. "Stay with her," I whispered. His motion deepened, not faster, but more certain. Her fingers curled tight in the sheets, her sounds growing sharper, her chest lifting off the bed in quick, uneven pulses. I held her tighter, grounding her as the tension wound tighter around us all. Her whole body tightened, then stilled. Her legs tensed, her breath vanished. And then the sound came open and raw as she collapsed fully into me, every part of her shaking as the tension finally snapped. I held her, one arm tucked around her ribs, my face near her ear as she struggled to catch her breath. Watching her come apart like that, held between both of us, hit harder than I'd expected. Ethan slowed behind her, lifting himself with care. We stayed close, the three of us tangled in heat and silence, the weight of the moment still thick in the air. I brushed the hair from Sarah's face and kissed her softly just above her cheek. She turned toward me slowly, eyes low and glazed, her smile barely there. "If you two ever need a third," she whispered, "I think I'm available." And that's where we left it, or so I thought. The moment lingered in the air, heavy and electric, as we lay there, the three of us still entwined, our breaths slowly steadying. The Seattle night was quiet outside, the faint hum of the city muffled by the thick walls of the suburban house. I felt Sarah's warmth against me, her body soft and pliant, while Ethan's presence anchored us on the other side. My mind raced, caught between the intensity of what had just happened and the reality of what it meant. I had crossed a line I never imagined I'd approach, let alone step over. And yet here I was, not just complicit, but an active part of it. Sarah shifted, rolling onto her back, her chest still rising and falling with shallow breaths. She looked at me, her eyes softer now, less glazed, but still carrying that spark of amusement. "You okay, Lily?" she asked, her voice gentle but probing. I swallowed, my throat tight. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "This is a lot." Ethan propped himself up on one elbow, his gaze flicking between us. "You both good?" he asked, his tone calm but with a trace of concern, like he was checking the temperature of the room. Sarah chuckled, low and warm. "I'm more than good. Ethan, don't worry about me." She reached out, brushing her fingers lightly against my arm. "But Lily's the one who looks like she's overthinking." I forced a small laugh, but it felt hollow. She wasn't wrong. My mind was a tangle of guilt, desire, and confusion. I'd told Ethan to go, but I hadn't expected to follow, to join them, to feel the way I did now, shaken, exhilarated, and terrified all at once. I sat up, pulling the sheet around me, suddenly aware of my own vulnerability. "I just need a minute," I said, my voice unsteady. Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable but not pressuring. "Take your time," he said, echoing Sarah's earlier calmness. He leaned back, giving me space, but his presence still filled the room, inescapable. I stood, gathering my clothes from the floor, the trail I'd left behind feeling like evidence of a decision I wasn't sure I'd fully processed. As I dressed, I avoided their eyes, though I could feel them watching me. Sarah's gaze curious, Ethan's steady and quiet. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but it was heavy, charged with unspoken questions. I slipped out of the room without another word, the door clicking softly behind me. Back in my own bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the hardwood floor. The house was silent now, the sounds from Sarah's room gone, but they echoed in my head. I'd told Ethan it was okay, but was it I'd joined them, let myself get swept up in the moment? But now the weight of it settled over me like a fog. Sarah was my aunt, someone I'd always looked up to, someone I'd invited into our home out of care. And Ethan, he was mine, my partner, my constant. Yet I'd pushed him toward her, and then I'd followed. What did that say about me? The next morning, the Seattle rain pattered softly against the windows, a steady drizzle that matched the grey in my mind. I stayed in bed longer than usual, my phone forgotten on the nightstand as I tried to piece together my thoughts. Ethan was already up, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. I could hear Sarah's laughter, bright and unburdened, mingling with his low voice. They sounded normal, like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. I forced myself to get up, pulling on a sweater and jeans, and made my way to the kitchen. Sarah was at the table, her hair pulled back, a mug of coffee in her hands. Ethan leaned against the counter, sipping his own. They both looked up as I entered. Sarah with a warm smile, Ethan with a quiet nod. "Morning, Lily," Sarah said, her tone as casual as ever. "Morning," I mumbled, heading for the coffee pot, avoiding their eyes. Ethan set his mug down. "You sleep okay?" he asked, his voice soft but probing. I nodded, pouring coffee I didn't really want. "Yeah, just processing." Sarah raised an eyebrow, her smile turning playful. "Processing? Huh, you're not regretting it, are you?" I froze, the mug warm against my palms. "I don't know," I said honestly. "It's just a lot to take in." She nodded, her expression softening. "Fair enough. But you don't need to overthink it. Lily, it was one night. Doesn't have to mean anything more than that." Ethan stepped closer, his hand brushing my arm. "She's right. We're all adults here. No one's hurt." But I wasn't so sure. The guilt gnawed at me, not because I thought it was wrong, but because I'd enjoyed it, because I couldn't stop thinking about it, because I wasn't sure where it left us. I sipped my coffee, letting the warmth ground me, but it didn't quiet the storm in my head. The day passed in a blur. Sarah suggested a walk through the nearby park, the rain having cleared to a misty drizzle. We bundled up, the three of us moving through the wet streets, the Space Needle looming in the distance. Sarah chatted easily, telling stories about her old life in Portland, her divorce, her attempts to start over. Ethan listened, chiming in with his dry humour, while I stayed quiet. My thoughts stuck on last night. Every time Sarah's arm brushed mine or Ethan's gaze lingered, my pulse spiked, and I hated how my body betrayed me. That night, we ordered takeout pizza from a local spot and ate in the living room, the TV playing some mindless comedy. Sarah sat cross-legged on the couch. Ethan sprawled beside her, and I took the armchair, needing the distance. But the ease between them felt too normal, too unaffected. I watched them, searching for cracks, for any sign that last night had shifted something. If it had, they weren't showing it. After Sarah went to bed, Ethan and I stayed up, cleaning up the remnants of dinner. The silence was heavier now, just the two of us. He set a plate in the dishwasher and glanced at me. "You've been quiet all day, Lily?" I nodded, scrubbing a glass harder than necessary. "Just thinking. About last night." His voice was low, careful. "Yeah." I set the glass down, turning to face him. "Are we okay?" He stepped closer, his hand resting on the counter beside me. "We're okay if you want us to be. I'm not going anywhere." I swallowed, my throat tight. "And Sarah?" He shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. "She's your aunt. She's family. Last night doesn't change that unless we let it." I nodded, but the knot in my chest didn't loosen. I wanted to believe him, to believe it could be that simple. But the memory of Sarah's voice, her touch, the way we'd all moved together, it was still too vivid, too real. Over the next few days, life settled into an uneasy rhythm. Sarah stayed with us, her presence a constant reminder of that night. She didn't bring it up again, but her casual touch as a hand on my shoulder, a brush of her fingers as she passed me a mug felt charged, like she was testing the waters. Ethan, too, seemed different. His glances lingering, his touches more deliberate. I caught myself watching them, wondering if they'd crossed that line again without me, or if they were waiting for me to make the next move. One evening, as we sat on the back patio, the Seattle skyline glowing faintly in the distance, Sarah broke the silence. "You two are good together," she said, her voice soft but pointed. "I don't want to mess that up." I looked at her, surprised. "You're not," I said quickly, though I wasn't sure I believed it. She smiled, but there was a sadness in it. "I'm not so sure. I've been alone a long time, Lily. Last night, it was the first time I felt alive in years. But I don't want to be the reason you two fall apart." Ethan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "We're not falling apart, Sarah. Lily and I were solid. Last night was unexpected, but it doesn't have to break anything." I wanted to agree, to nod and move on, but the words stuck. Instead, I said, "I don't regret it. I just don't know what it means." Sarah reached out, her hand resting on mine. "It means whatever you want it to mean. Could be a one-time thing. Could be more. That's up to you. That's up." Her words hung in the air, heavy with possibility. I looked at Ethan, his eyes steady on me, waiting. I didn't have an answer, not yet, but the pull was there, undeniable, a thread connecting the three of us that I wasn't sure I wanted to cut. The next week, Sarah announced she was moving out, renting a small apartment downtown. "Time to start over for real," she said, her smile bright but tinged with something bittersweet. The day she left, she hugged me tightly, her breath warm against my ear. "If you ever want to revisit that night, you know where to find me." I laughed, but it caught in my throat. Ethan stood beside me as we watched her car pull away, the Seattle rain starting up again. He slipped his hand into mine, his grip firm. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know," I said, my voice soft, "but I think we'll figure it out." He nodded, pulling me close. "We always do. Most men wouldn't even consider it." Ethan didn't just consider it, he followed through. So tell me honestly, if your girl asked you to do the same, would you? Would you go to that room, or would you walk away? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll be reading. Before you leave, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon so you never miss the next one. Thanks for watching. See you soon.